So let me introduce you to the donut. It's the only one that actually turns out to be any good for us. You don't have to eat it because it's conceptual. So here's the donut. I know you can't see all of the details of the words, but I will explain it. Think of it as a compass for human prosperity this century. The goal is to leave nobody in the hole in the middle. That's where people are falling short on the essentials of life. It's where people don't have the resources they need for food, healthcare, education, housing, income, political voice. These I've crowdsourced from the world's governments. They are the social priorities set out in the Sustainable Development Goals. So all the governments in the world have already agreed that all people in the world have a right not to be left in the hole in the middle of the donut. So far, so good. But we know that as humanity meets our needs for healthcare and housing and food and business, we begin to put pressure on the resources of this unique and delicately balanced living planet. And so just as there's an inner limit, there's also an outer limit beyond which we must not go. Because that ecological ceiling is where we start to put so much pressure on the life support systems of planet Earth that we kick them out of balance. That's where we cause climate breakdown. We acidify the oceans. We create a hole in the ozone layer. We break down the web of life. These around the edge are the 9 planetary boundaries recognized by Earth system scientists only a decade ago. We are only just beginning to fully understand the workings of our planetary home, and it's time to respect that. So the goal of the donut is not to pursue endless growth. It is to find a dynamic balance of meeting the needs of all people within the means of the living planet. And yet we are very far from that right now. As all of the red in this image shows, we know that billions of people worldwide can't meet their most essential needs in countries rich and poor. But we are overshooting multiple planetary boundaries, including on climate breakdown, but also on ecological crisis. This is the story we must turn around. We have to remember that last century's economic theories and government policies and business models were not designed to solve this, so we should never expect them to do so. We have to come up with policies and business models of our own time if we're going to turn this story around. And I believe that business plays a critical role in making this transformation happen. I think there are 2 fundamental dynamics we need to transform in our economies. First, with a piece of hosepipe, we have inherited linear, degenerative economies. We take Earth's materials, put them in the pipe of production, we make them into stuff we want, use it for a while, and then we throw it away. And that take, make, use, lose. That is what is continually pushing us over planetary boundaries. We need to turn from a linear, degenerative economy into a circular, regenerative economy, where resources are not used up, they're used again and again, far more carefully, more collectively, more creatively, and more slowly. 2 examples from businesses that I think are beginning to put this into practice. 1, here is my car key. It's from a company called Co-Wheels, which is a car sharing scheme in the UK. In December last year, I got rid of my car, not because I didn't need it. It was really useful to have a car, but I know enough about climate change to recognize that I can no longer justify owning my own private car. And I also don't think it's right just to buy an electric car instead. So now I'm part of a car club. I share access to cars. So Co-Wheels is set up to reduce the impact of cars in the world, to reduce climate change, and to transform how we travel. Here is a hoodie made by the Swedish clothing company Houdini. Houdini make everything in a circular fashion. So they all make all of their clothes either from wool and tencel, which are renewable organic fibers and can be composted and remade, or like this one, from recycled nylon and recycled polyesters. And in fact, to show the impact of their company, they asked their customers to return all the wool and tencel garments. They composted it, they turned it into compost, they grew food on the top, and they invited their customers to a meal. They served them the food, and they said, "You're eating your old ski wear." This is a beautiful, playful exemplary of the circular economy in practice. So we need to move from a degenerative to a regenerative economy. That's one dynamic. But there's a second one that we need to shift. We know that we've inherited business models that by design are concentrating value and opportunity in the hands of a few. It's why we've seen the rise of massive multinational corporations. We've seen corporate profits rising and corporate share from revenue rising, shareholders' share, while wage earners' shares have been stagnating in many countries worldwide. We need to move from business models that are divisive like this by design to business models that are distributive by design, that actually seek to distribute the value and opportunity created in business far more equitably with everybody who co-creates that value. Again, I can give you a couple of examples. Tony's Chocolonely, a chocolate company set up in the Netherlands with the goal of making slave-free chocolate, not just in their own supply chains, but globally. And so respecting and recognizing the right of everybody throughout that supply chain to be paid a decent and living wage. And then the cosmetics company Lush, which is committed and signed up to the fair tax mark. What's that? It's just simply a commitment to pay the right amount of tax at the right time in the right place. Whereas we know that many companies have very sophisticated accounting practices aiming to pay the least amount of tax, as little as possible, in as few places as possible. But Lush recognise that their success depends upon a society's success, and they must give back and to that success themselves. So we need to move from degenerative to regenerative, and from divisive to distributive designs. From all the conversations that I've had with companies about the donut over the last 10 years nearly, it's been fascinating hearing from 3 people startup to a Fortune 500 company. Such different reactions. And some companies on encountering the donut, they'll say, well, you know, that's a sad story. It's a pity about the state of the world, but the business of business is business. Yes, we all know those companies still exist. Whereas others will literally see the donut and say, that could almost be our corporate logo. That could almost be the emblem of why we exist. We exist in the world to end slavery in chocolate supply chains. We exist to bring health to this community, to decarbonize the atmosphere. We exist to sequester carbon and transform energy, to transform transport, to transform diets. That's why we are here. We're using business as a vehicle for doing that. Now, what is it that divides these companies, leaves some pursuing just endless growth for their financial returns and others absolutely pursuing that purpose? For me, what's most important is not the design of a company's products, it's the design of the company itself. And I invite everybody in the room to think about the design of the company that you work for. Whether it's a company you're joining or leaving, whether you're the CEO or you're the latest graduate, the design of the companies determine whether they can become regenerative and distributive by design and be part of this transformation, or whether they are stuck in the past and just simply will not make that leap. And so here are the 5 design traits I invite you to look at your company and every company through. And when I teach students economics and business, I teach them to be a detective about every company. And do not join a company that you do not think has this aligned. So, purpose. What is the purpose of your enterprise? Why does it even exist? Should it even exist in the 21st century, given all that we know? What is it in service to in the world? How is your company networked with its consumers, its customers, its suppliers, its industry ecosystem support? How does it strengthen its values and purpose through them? And how does it respond to their values and purpose? How is the company governed? What are the rules, the principles, the practices, the culture, the norms that regulate the way business is done? Who makes decisions in the boardroom? Whose voice is heard? What are the metrics of success? How will you show that impact that Ronald Cohen was talking about? And what are the incentives given to middle management? And are they aligned with that goal and purpose? So purpose, networks, governance, but let's get down to the serious stuff. Ownership. How is your company owned? Whether a company is owned by its founding entrepreneur, by shareholders, by venture capital, or by its employees or customers, or by the state. These ownership models, and they all exist in the world, have profoundly different impacts on how decisions are made, on the long-term value and the long-term goal that's pursued. And they most of all shape what sits at the bottom and is most powerful: finance. The finance that is coming to this enterprise. And what is it expecting and demanding? Is the finance here saying, well, we're investing in you, obviously, because we want short and fast, high returns. And if we don't get them quarter on quarter, we're out. A company that's ruled by that has almost no chance of transforming its purpose. And that's why Paul Pullman, on the day one of becoming CEO of Unilever, stopped giving quarterly reports, trying to avoid the track here of this. But Unilever almost got taken over by a hostile takeover bid, because I think it was a company, like many, that are caught between shareholder ownership and short-term demands of finance and trying to pursue a new purpose. Finance has to be aligned with your purpose, with a longer-term vision. And so for that, we need, as Ronald Cohen was saying, we need governments to put in regulation that requires companies to reveal and publish their impact so that finance can begin to be aligned with that. But we also need to transform models of ownership and financing of companies. So I invite everybody here to be a detective about your company. I invite you to ask yourself, which of these design traits are already enabling us in our enterprise to pivot towards the future that we know we have to create? Where are those opportunities, and what could we do this week and this month to actually start making that happen? And being equally honest, where in our enterprise are we held back by the way that our company is designed? How are we pulled back? How are we stopped? How are we blocked from bringing about this transformation because of our outdated purpose, or we've got the wrong networks, or the way we're governed, or the way we are owned and financed? And what can we do to transform that? What can we start doing? And it's probably a conversation we can start this week, because it's going to take time to transform it, but it has to have the leadership. Whenever I'm advising students who I teach internationally and they're going into the world of business, I say to them, any company that you have an interview with, remember that you are interviewing them too. And as you interview that company and ask yourself, do I want to work for this company? Interrogate it with these 5 design traits. Because if you sense that the company does not have the capacity to align its own design with the future we need to bring about, don't join that company. And if you've already joined it, in hope of bringing about transformation, take a long, hard look at how you see the company working. And if you think, from what you can see inside the company, that it does not have the capacity or the leadership to transform, leave that company. Put your energy somewhere that deserves it. It's time for bold decisions. And not all companies will be able to make this transformation. Not every company can become regenerative and distributive by design. So we should put our energy with companies that actually deserve that energy, that have the capacity and the leadership and the ambition to transform, and to transform in all of these design traits. So I'll stop there. I hope that inspires. I really hope you have a good day today, and I look forward to any short questions and discussion we can have right now. Thank you.
Kate, that was